Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Goodness Speaks. I'm Rochelle Fletcher. I'm a speaker, singer-songwriter, the co-founder of the Goodness Project, which helps families and children in crisis all around the world. And we're so glad that you've tuned in with us today. We want you to know God's goodness, and we want to make sure that you know how to be His voice in the earth in these times. There's an incredible harvest coming, and we want you to be His voice in your sphere of influence. And so that's what Goodness Speaks is all about. We also share a lot of inspiring stories about the goodness of God that's being shown tangibly to families in the DFW Metroplex and in some of our other locations, which is Nashville and Buffalo and Canada and Israel. God has expanded our territory, and we want to steward it well. But we want you to know about these other organizations that we get to work with and that partner with the Goodness Project. So we are so happy that you're here today. I pray that you'll just position yourself to hear the voice of the Lord. Position yourself to really hear what He says through my guests, their stories today. They're going to share from their heart. And I want you to know how valued and important that you are in these times for such a time as this. So today we're going to be talking about convergence. I don't know if you've ever heard what that word means or thought about it in this realm, but we're going to talk about that. But we're also going to talk about how convergence, when you find what you're called to do, it leads to amazing things for God's kingdom. So today I have some really, really special guests. I've been looking forward to having them on today. I want to introduce you to Dr. Lance Wallnau and Annabelle. So glad you guys are here today.
Thank you.
I love being with these guys. They're amazing. So good to have you guys.
Good to be here.
Yeah. So Lance and Annabelle, I mean, you guys have been in ministry for quite a while, for a long time.
Yes. How long?
Well, we were married 35 years. You were already going towards ministry before that, right? So let's just say 35 solid.
Say 35 solid years.
35. We're right behind you. We're at 30, married 30 years, right behind you. But I love what God does through your ministry. Before I get into the questions, I just want to publicly thank both of you because you were both a part of this. I was telling Lance before the show that years ago we were going through a lot of turmoil and transition and trying to find what we're called to do. 'Cause, you know, we pastored churches and we had done outreach ministry with the Goodness Project, and I had done singing and praise and worship, and there was a lot I could do, but I didn't know what God was really calling me to. I didn't know what that convergence was and that assignment that was next because there was so much turmoil and crisis in my life. So I just want to thank you because I found His teaching about convergence, and you know, I'd never really thought about it that way, to do what you really love to do, but what God, it's like a supernatural thing that God does in those times, in that moment. So I just want to thank you for obeying the Lord and really helping us. Wow. So maybe just mention that really quickly about what that is, because I want to talk about that with what God's done in the convergence in your ministry as well.
And this, you know, there's terminology when you were saying it's about transition.
Yeah.
And it's so funny how there are words that have I don't know if they have a shelf life, but they certainly have a period of time when they're popular. It's like a music trend.
Yeah.
And when I was teaching on convergence, it was the discovery of Dr. Robert Clinton's research at Fuller Seminary. One of my mentors was Peter Wagner, and Peter had a student whose name was Bobby Clinton, and John Maxwell, and Rick Warren. They're all in Wagner's classes. Mm-hmm. And Clinton, I was fascinated by because he's the only man who did a scientific analysis of destiny. Now, you can preach on destiny and all be good, but here's the data-driven researcher as a professor. And what he discovered is that when he was studying ministry people, these are people that are dedicated to answering the call of God, only 20% of ministers said that they actually were doing a role that corresponded to what they were gifted to do or felt called to do prophetically in the answering of the call. Yeah. So he studied what goes into that 20%. What is the mistake the 80% make? But then I was teaching a master's degree class and had the joy of having him as I was the other professor in his class. So he taught and I taught. So I got to be right there with him, you know, refining what my understanding was of convergence. And here's the definition that we came up with. Convergence is the place where you step into the role for which you were born, and it makes 100% utilization of your gifts, talents, and acquired skills in the assignment that God has called you to fulfill. And you could do that in Convergence in one role and then shift into transition, it's a mystery, and find it in another role because Convergence happens in multiple places.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened in my life, because I felt like I was, the call in my life. I was a minister, pastoring churches, I had led worship, but I was at that transition. I was at that place, that crossroads of trying to figure out where to go. And so thank you for helping us and doing the data. I think it's important that we do data and not just talk about it, but we have the data, it's so vital, the work that you do. And I usually see Lance like writing on the board, he's writing everything out, explains it, it's so beautiful. So thank you for being here with your beautiful wife. But I began to think about the convergence you guys have experienced recently. Have you had any transition in your life? And can you, Annabelle, maybe you can explain what's been going on, how the Lord's led you into this new work with what you guys are doing with furnishing families?
Well, it's funny because my particular outreach has had to begin with a disaster in our house because water went under the wall, and then there was a whole bedroom that needed to be taken down, and the wall had to be cut because the floor was destroyed. So it was all in our dining room for a while, this bedroom set. And then my husband, Lance, he says, we don't really need another bedroom. Lance Jr. moved out. Let's make it an office. So I called the Center for Transforming Lives to see who needed a bedroom set, because I knew that they work with people getting homes for the first time, and everyone needed a bedroom set. So they connected me with a woman named Tylin, and then I called her to set up the delivery, and she said, can you get my 7-year-old to bed? He never had a bed in his life. And I said, wait, what does that mean? She said he slept on the couch, he slept on the floor, he slept in the car, he slept on an air mattress, but he never slept on a mattress, a bed. I said, with my friend Wanda, and I was telling her, and she's like, not on my watch. So she bought the first twin bed, and we've bought way over 250 beds since that. We just gave that child the bed, and then they had a cousin who needed a bed. They had a friend who needed a bed. They kept calling me, and I thought, oh, I can get a bed. Oh, yeah, I can get a bed for them. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Lance, we need a little bit more money for that. Okay, yeah, let's get them a bed. Let's get them a bed. All of a sudden, then they need a nightstand. Then they need a lamp. Then they need, and the whole thing started in our house, and we instantly got a.
So how did that work for you, Lance? I really want to get real. Like, how did that work for you when she's bringing home all this furniture to your house and filling up your garage?
I think women will find this interesting, and because I know women, they're my primary demographic in terms of my my ministry, my following. The two things that Annabelle could add to the story that would help people is she heard someone talk about women that are living in the Fort Worth area. Because, you think about ministry in Africa, or like friends of ours in Mozambique or in Costa Rica, but then it's like Fort Worth, women are living in cars.
And in Keller. We have people living in Keller at our own level.
And she was so agitated by this. Yeah. So, I'm a typical guy, and at the end of the day, it's like, we all decompress, but then you're eating dinner, and it's like, that's not the best time for us to be processing complex global issues.
Yeah, local issues maybe.
And she's like giving me this download on, you won't believe it, but I heard about this, and somebody's got to do some right here in Fort Worth, and I could see it had become emotionally significant to her. So what I know is,
there's children involved.
Hear that? There's children
involved.
So whatever your calling is, your passion can either be that which gives you the greatest joy and satisfaction, or that which causes the most pain. So in Nehemiah's case, building a wall was convergence out of pain. It's not always the case that you're looking for that sunlit golden highway into convergence, because convergence could be strewn in the wreckage of a situation where you are simply not willing to let that happen, and you feel compelled. So the call of God draws you in by need or by desire.
Yes.
The other thing that I think is interesting is I was working on marriage material, which is, for training. And I got convicted because I realized that in my own data, my own research, if you take a sphere, like this is the guy, if you don't have every 3 to 5 years, certainly within a decade, your children leave home, divorce rates around Dallas, Fort Worth, and different parts of the country go high, and people are like shocked. They go, who's getting divorced? Because they've been together, you see them as a couple for 20 years and 30 years. The glue that held them together was the children. So as our children leave and we're converting former bedrooms, kind of like mausoleum. You know, this was the shrine of where they grew up.
Right.
We're now doing something with it. It's like you have to let go of that era.
Yeah, yeah.
I realized the sphere
It's true.
of recalibration means you have to catch up with your spouse and find out how are they different now than when you married them.
It's true.
What's changed in them and what's changing and where are they going that they've never been? Because if you don't recalibrate, the spheres don't stay connected, and you might actually recalibrate with someone else.
Yeah.
So you've got to be intentional about where are you at now, and suspend judgment and just say what's happening and where you're at. So that when you do that, you recreate the overlapping spheres. And men need to think about this. So often, women in ministry, I'm sure you've done this, women will help in the model of culture we have to serve their husband so that they can be in the career track.
Right.
And we need that so that women can give that nurturing element at times to the raising of the children, etc. But when does the guy ever reciprocate?
Exactly.
And say, all right, I'm actually in a convergence. I'm in what I'm doing. Well, like it or not, this is what I do. But what are you called to do that you've never done? And then the Lord challenged me, and he said, to lay down your life as Christ loved the church. What did he do? He cut short his life so that we could have one. And so if a man will stop making him the center of the universe and actually turn his focus on what are you called to do? How are you called to do it? And it produced a painful transition for us because she was connected to everything I did.
Right.
And to get her to do what she had to do, I almost had to push her out of what she no longer was in convergence doing because she had more. And doing my assignment wasn't God's assignment for her. So it meant this was awkward period where, honey, I don't need you on this. But we built everything together. And that's when I saw when she came in, about women before, I thought, uh-oh. I mean, it was a date night.
I don't think he was ready for this.
It was a date
It
night.
was our anniversary.
Our anniversary.
Date night.
In
where were we?
Philadelphia.
At the
And
what
it's
club?
like, and my hair's plastered back. And it was round 2. And you know what? I'm thinking, and the Lord said, this is what you prayed for.
Yeah.
Just don't change the subject. Go with it.
Wow.
This is she's coming into her own assignment. So then I had to kind of like make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's why I wanted to have you on today, because for those that are watching, if you're going through this, maybe you're in this convergence moment or this transition and you're at this place where your children they're out. Like, we're in that same place. Our children were out. What do we do now? We spent all this time nurturing our children, and she helped you build your ministry. She was behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
You were doing, behind every great, successful, powerful, anointed man is a powerful,
Better believe it.
patient woman.
Oh my God, a saint.
Yeah, our friend Deb Tenelle, she always said, Lance is a beautiful swan on the water. And you and me, we're the legs underneath her. We're going like this. And she goes, and I am screaming. She was our admin for
Sorry,
like
Debbie.
20-something years.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
Right? But it was fun.
But that's what
We
I
loved
loved.
it.
I just thought it was such a,
Team
as I
ministry.
began to think about this, I thought, wow, I'm like, you teach about this. You're on this global scale, on the Faith Council with Trump. You're dealing with like global major issues going on in America and around the world. And yet your own wife is going through this convergence, she needs to go into a convergence, and you stopped. And you paid attention to that. That's huge, and I want to
He
honor you
loves
for
me.
that.
He wants to be married.
Right,
No, I mean,
35
it's a
years.
cho-
You don't just say sorry. I'm going to go out and do my global thing. And
Right, because it's a
Yeah.
choice. You really have to choose things, right?
yeah, you do.
So
Yeah.
even
Well, but I also have the fear of God, I'll be honest with you, for any men that listen. If you want to experience the fullness of what God has for you, then you have to make a priority out of the person that God has given you the most covenant responsibility for.
Amen.
So if you neglect that, you're really neglecting your own salvation,
Yeah.
because the Lord is saying, "Hey, this is my gift to you. How you handle her is how you're treating your own anointing, your own calling."
So
So it's
true.
enlightened self-interest to take care of your health and to take care of your spouse,
Yeah.
and not treat them as though you could trade them off for an upgrade vehicle. Like I've seen people
Amen.
do.
That
I've
was
seen
so good.
professionals do it. They don't get it.
But things happen and people do have to get divorced.
Well,
and
of
stuff.
course, honey, I
No,
understand.
I
that.
know, but I mean, some people will take that right to heart when you say that,
Right.
like as if, oh,
Surrender, forget that.
No, but truthfully, it's eternal wedding vows.
The only thing we don't do is broadcast together. Because
I
This is a great
asleep one
opportunity.
time.
This is a
She
great
fell asleep.
opportunity.
I fell
She
asleep
fell
during his
asleep
prayer meeting.
while I was doing a prayer
It was
call,
after midnight.
and I was praying in the Holy
And I was
Ghost.
like-
And
Well,
I turned over. I'm waiting for the amen. I thought, is she getting a revelation? She's like, well,
Well, you do stay up late, Lance. I just have to
yes,
say,
yes,
like you're
yes.
like
I-
1
I
and 2 in
admit
the
that.
morning
I
getting your
admit
prayer.
that.
Yeah, I know. I go to bed at 10:30. But anyway.
But I want to know. I want to know about. No, this is so funny. I love it. I love it. I want to know what have you seen, because you have surrendered and you value this relationship and you value this marriage. How does that make you feel, Annabelle? How does that make you feel as a woman and a wife? And what impact have you seen this have on the families that you're serving?
Well, I wanted to
furnishing
say, because I
families.
used to work with couples for my ministry, most of it, when we had a church, we were pastoring 20 years, that really one of the first needs of a woman is to be understood. So
Yeah.
because there's understanding, I have empowerment from that, right? So I can feel like, my parents grew us up never to think if we're a girl or a boy, we could do anything. So I never had that ceiling over my head. Can I do it? I just knew I
Right.
could do it, right?
Right.
So the thing about it is, and in fact, my dad would say, Abel, you're able. I was like, that's right. So anyway,
I
that's
love that.
that's a training, right? So that's inbred, right? But in your marriage and your love, and your man makes that space for you, it's definitely a huge thing, because he's busy, he's got a million things, and even to come here with me today and stuff, I
Yeah,
invited
it's
him,
huge.
and I really didn't know if he could come, but you gave a couple dates, and he's like, "Why I see the little pensive space there? Yeah, how long is it? We can do it." So, but I mean, but that's really empowering, right?
Very empowering.
So that's good.
Very empowering.
So there's only two. We teach. Lance teaches us. There's only two states: empowered or disempowered.
Yeah.
Right. So which one do I choose? We always want to choose one empowered, right? But sometimes we feel disempowered. But when we talk with each other and give each other that love and that support,
Yeah.
he'll feel empowered by me. He'll feel disempowered by me. But like he doesn't prefer the disempowered, and neither do I. So we can tell. I can tell when I frustrate him, his body language. And I'll be like, come
Yeah,
back
we can kind of
around.
see that after 35 years.
Yeah.
You kind of know.
You have to come
Usually,
back around again.
yeah.
And go, well, from another angle. What do you think about what? But so he checks and balances, right?
Sure.
But it's good. I think it's
It's
good.
so
Did I
good.
answer the question actually?
You did answer one. I wanted to know about the impact that it's had on your life. I mean, have you, because Lance is out doing, a lot of broadcasting, and now you're coming back in to see front lines, like you're going into people's homes. You're seeing children's lives being
I see that when he comes and meets the kids, he's done. He's done. He's already adopted a 10-year-old named Amar.
Yeah.
Take him to church on Sunday. Loves the kids.
Yeah, how has that
telling
impacted
you.
you, Lance?
Oh,
Come
he's
on,
a big
share.
blob of melted butter.
It's tough.
We aren't grandparents yet, but kind of.
You got some spiritual
I
children.
knew what happened.
Yeah.
I tried to hold out. I didn't want to get emotionally involved with this thing. I got things I got to do. This is your ministry, not mine.
Yeah, it's true, but it's got him.
It's happened. Well, how has the Goodness Project, with what we've done, how has that helped you?
Oh my
in-
gosh. Talk about light, love, and growth. You guys allow us to spend 20 cents on a dollar. We can bring our partners' donations here and multiply the heck out of it. We did an outreach, and supposedly you guys were going to give us, we gave somebody donated $1,000 for that outreach,
Yeah.
and you said that would be worth 5,000, and then you gave us 7,000,
Yeah.
and you opened up the
We like
power
to give
hose.
more.
You guys like, what?
It's-
So we had extra toys and extra
Mm-hmm.
makeup and extra food and extra sheets and blankets and towels. The Goodness Project has been very good to us.
Yeah,
we
we
can buy
love it.
televisions for $25. Well, sometimes we can buy 8. So like most families we meet don't have anything.
Right.
Right,
You go
really-
in. Set the tone for us. You go in, and what do you
Well,
typically see?
I don't find them. They find me. I have my name in the wind. Somebody prophesied over me that God just put my name in the wind, and I didn't know what that meant exactly, but I thought it sounded cool. What does that mean? I don't know how these people get my phone number. Only because they heard it from someone else.
Okay.
Because it's not through an agency. It's not advertised. And
Just by word of mouth.
Word
pretty
of
much.
mouth. Every day I get a text or 2 or 3. I get up to 8 or 10 a week texts. First I get a phone call. Then I say, please text me with your name, your address, and really what you need. And everybody, mostly 89, 90%, don't have a bed even yet. They just came out of a shelter. They've already gone through all their garbage bags full of stuff, and
Yeah.
they left that garbage bag there, now they have nothing. And so really what we need to do is, what I love to do is furnish their whole home. But
Yeah.
we don't always have dressers. It's the hardest thing to get. I can't explain why.
It is. For some reason, you get the beds and the mattresses, but
And the nightstands and the lamps, and we get so much great stuff, but not dressers. So we're 18 or 20 dressers behind right now. And so that's going to be tough. And I don't know what's going to happen with that, but
God
today,
will provide. He always does.
yeah, that
He
means we're going to go
always
back
does.
to those people. Like I work with Terry Bird,
Yeah.
and she's very into all the metrics and all the people's
She
names.
is.
And she was a social worker 21 years. So she's got a whole backlog of who needs what. And
Yeah.
we're going to get to that. And we just got our first 26-foot truck. So
Yeah.
now we really can go out all the time.
Yeah, now they have a truck, and then the next thing is they're going to need a building
We're getting
to
a
store
building.
some of these things. See, the vision is increasing. It's on and on
we
and
have
on.
4 warehouses and 4 storage units, and it's confusing. So now we're making a bid on a 9,000 square foot
Amen.
actual one roof. We'll be under one roof. That'd be amazing.
Yes,
So-
we're going to pray that the Lord gets you into that building very quickly, because I know what that's like. We went from 3 warehouses to now we're here in 1, which they just got to see that today, or Lance did, 150,000 square feet. And it makes a big difference when you have that footage.
150,000 square feet.
Come on, Lance. We got to believe big. We got to have vision here.
I know. It's so
He's
good.
like, oh, dear God. We need to pray. No.
But see, with our families, like they're really a lot of them backslidden Christians or never met the Lord. We get to pray
Yeah.
with them. We don't always pray with
Yes.
everyone the first visit because it's just overwhelming when we come in. Like we come in like a flood, and we ask them if we can, if they want to, we do.
Yeah.
But we come back 4 or 5 times by the time they get all their art and everything, because we can't bring all that. We try to bring them to us. A lot of times lately, people don't have cars. In the beginning, a
Right.
lot of people had cars. They'd come and they'd load it up. They could hardly even shut the
Mm-hmm.
doors with stuff. And that's what we do. We let them shop for free. But the thing is, like, the last almost 8 months, there's only been like 2 families with cars that came.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now we're like bulged out. But
Yeah.
we're bringing them to us.
Well, that's what I love, is that you're providing a bed, or you're providing a mattress, or you're providing a dresser, which need more dressers. We're going to pray those in. And you end up getting the Lord uses those resources, and He does this for the Goodness Project and all the other partners that we work with, because this is the kind of God that we serve. It's His nature.
Yeah.
That resource becomes a way for someone to know the goodness of God and for that to speak into their lives. And then you get to minister. You get
Yeah.
to
The
get
woman who
involved.
we just gave yesterday, I won't say her name, she was a disaster in their home from the pipes bursting
Yeah.
in February, but then a fire burst out because of the surges, and they lost everything. And she had 4 siblings. Two of them were sisters whose children, all 4 siblings are dead. 2 of the siblings had a daughter each. She's raising them. One's
Oh my
14,
goodness.
one's 17 and 13, I mean. And so, I talked to her on the phone. She called me a few times, and we set it all up. I mean, she only called me, I think, the beginning was Saturday, and what's today? Friday, and she's being delivered yesterday. So that was a really fast turnaround. It doesn't always happen that fast. But the thing with her is, she said, I have to just tell you that to see God move through your guys' ministry like this really reestablished something in me that was gone. And it was just so amazing that she was very aware that God met her in such an enormous way. Plus, we don't usually buy full mattresses. I always thought they were a waste of money because a queen is so much bigger, but really our demographic, their bedrooms aren't really big enough
Yeah,
for a
that's
queen.
right.
So you have to get a full, so I have to calm down with my attitude, right? But so I mean, it's not even on my order form. I don't even make a place for it.
Yeah.
But she had gotten a queen from a pastor, and it was too big, and they had to take it back. So I'd only offered her twins in that case, and then I just felt like the Lord said, just go buy her 2 fulls. So I was like, we're going to get you those full beds after all, because that's what you need. And she just busted out crying. And she said, I can't even believe how you're bending over backwards for me. This is so God. And she just started telling me all these God stories, but they were a little bit disappeared because the tragedy was so strong for so
Right, the
long.
crisis.
All this stuff happening, the trauma, and then God pulled it all way back. So she's way different today. I
Right.
mean, look what God did in a week. God can do it in a second.
He
But
is
I mean,
so
when
good.
He uses you in a person's process, it affects you in a huge way. It just,
I can see the tears coming to your eyes, because it does. It does something to be able to give to that person in a way that they know the tangibility of God. They know His goodness. They know that He cares, that
Yeah.
He is the source. He's the one that
it's
provides
Him.
it. But
I'm not
listen-
taking any credit for this. I'm not even trying to make it sound like that.
Right, I
because
know.
it's His. He turns those dials, like
He
the,
does.
the tumblers, right?
Right.
Even turned my heart to go get her some full beds. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
He did.
It's not
And
even my
Annabelle makes
budget.
it happen. She's out. If anybody makes, she's on the phone. She's calling everybody. She knows all these people. But I love it. And you, I know you don't want to take credit for it. And a lot of people say you shouldn't talk about what you do to give to people and blah, blah, blah. But listen, we're sharing about the impact it's having on the life. And we're sharing about the impact it's having on you.
Right,
And on
and
Lance.
in your show that I saw, you talked about there's there's an actual hormone that's released in a nursing mother, the joy.
That's right.
And it happens
joy of
when
giving.
when you give, it's the same hormone that's released. Because
right.
we can't explain how happy it makes us. Like, there's
Well,
a
try.
different level of happiness that's not equal to something else.
Yeah.
Can you put it in language? You're good with words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel when you're able to give, Lance?
Like that.
Like this, in a way.
Well, and I think that there's, and we study, because I do a lot of the training and coaching, like secular crossover stuff, the language that we use for people, that even in the natural, I mean, this is the way God designed people. It's not just
Yeah,
Christians.
that's right.
Christians have the benefit of understanding what's going on.
Right.
But the people are driven by needs, and their need for connection or their need for significance.
Yeah.
But there's a need that also is a need to contribute. And,
Yeah.
and contribution is the word that describes an unselfish investment in someone else's life. If you're giving, but you always have this little cycle of you're going to get something, like it's like a sample, but you think you're going to make a sale, that's not the same as to invest in someone without expectation of reward,
Right.
purely for their own sake.
Right.
And when you trigger that dimension of experience, you experience the power of contribution, and that's where it's more blessed to give than to receive.
That's right.
There's a different kind of actualization and euphoria that comes. I just want to make an observation for people that are watching this. People are designed differently. Some are a little more cynical than others. So I got like 20% of my bloodline's Ashkenazi Jew, and I think the Jewish thing every now and then I'm always wondering, what are you up to? You got an angle on this? What are you doing here? How is this? So when it comes to money and ministry, I'm a Christian and I'm a minister, but I listen. I've seen people that I don't know if I trust them in ministry.
Sure, absolutely.
And, But these two, you could see it written on them. Every now and then you meet somebody who is genuinely from the heart, like a mother in Israel, doing what you do because you love people and love God. Yeah. And it's when you see that, you really have to cherish it. And that's the reason why I actually am watching what's going on with my wife, and now I'm watching you, and I'm seeing one of the most exciting moves of God. Because we could talk about sowing and reaping and praying, and there's a certain dimension where that's being worked. But notice contribution necessarily isn't in that, because it's a transaction. I'm sowing, but I'm expecting, and that's totally legit. But in your world, you are a conduit of contribution. Right. Your whole motive isn't to get something; it's to contribute. And so, for that reason, I'm fascinated with how stuff gets attracted to both of you like a magnet.
Yeah,
because I'm telling you, I've seen it come to my house, and I've seen it. It's a supernatural thing, and every now and then I'm trying to say, who's paying for all this? Because it's you discover there's a lot of stuff going on, and it hasn't affected our ability in my side to do anything, because suddenly Annabelle's surging with all this material stuff going on. But you have, both of you have, the kind of hearts people need to know that when you sow in this direction, this is when you're sowing to the Spirit, because this is pure love of God and pure supernatural. This is the kind of a soil that has the richest, most fertile kind of power in it.
Well, we got so excited because we always love to get food from the Goodness Project, which we were only handling a pallet of food, which for anyone.
What's a pallet? Because you use
either
language
41,
people don't know.
It's either 41 cases or 72, or
Yeah,
depends
it depends
how big
sometimes.
the
It can
case
be
is.
41 cases.
Yeah,
And
one
it
pallet.
weighs it weigh around. Is there a weight to
Oh,
it?
it varies. Depends on what's in it. If it's canned goods or if it's fresh produce.
So it's
or
like
whatever.
4 feet by 4 feet.
And
or
how
something.
big a truck would handle that?
Well, a big 18-wheeler will handle 24 pallets of food, which we have, and we take out big 18-wheelers all the time. We handle about anywhere from 20 to 50 truckloads a week.
See,
at the
and then they
Goodness
have their
Project.
refrigerator trucks, the freezer trucks. But we actually are not in the food business per se, furnishing families. We're in the furniture and clothing mostly. But all our families are like,
They need food.
After we furnish them, they say, but where can we get food? And we are like, So I was really feeling overwhelmingly blessed because during the February disaster weather, we actually didn't even ask. And all of a sudden, our friends, the Lapp brothers and Aaron Fisher, they contact us to see if we can handle some wayward tractor trailers that were ordered and already paid for and shipping. It takes 2 or 3 days to drive here or something like
Yeah,
that.
they came all the way from Pennsylvania, I believe,
were
and brought
driving down.
water during that disaster when the disaster happened with the storm.
Yeah, but there were extra trucks. There were 2 extra tractor trailers that somebody canceled on their way down. They're like, Annabelle, can you receive these? I'm like, can I receive these? Hold the line. I got somebody on speed dial. Rochelle, can you receive these? And so the Goodness Project received them gladly, and then we were able to give out 15 pallets of food. My team. Our team at Furnishing Families with like 12 volunteers. I think actually only 9 volunteers. And they killed it. In 2
It was so good.
In
It was
2
so
weeks,
fun.
they gave out 15 pallets. And we're only used to one.
I never understood the story till now. So you didn't. So you were able to receive
Right.
what she didn't have a capacity.
I don't
to
have a
receive.
place to put that.
But because you had the larger capacity, she could fill the truck she had with the workers she had to go do what she had to
Yeah,
do.
we could receive
I
what we
get
could
it.
handle, but she could receive the mother load.
I see
So there's
how
something
this
beautiful
works.
with partnership,
Yeah,
when you
partnership.
share and when you work together in the kingdom. And you see, I just love your passion. I love your passion, Annabelle. I love what God's doing through you. I love what He's doing through your marriage and your ministry. You're both doing something totally different, but now you're doing this, and that's. I hope today that you're being ministered to, and that you know that you can have this experience too. You can have this passion that she has as the Lord has led her into this work. And I pray that you get, if there's men watching, I pray that you'll get what Lance was saying about supporting your wife, supporting her and paying attention to what God is doing. That it's very intentional to make sure you're caring for your loved ones, your wife and your husband, and walking in that. We can go out and do great ministry all over the world, but if we don't take care of one another, we're going to miss it. And so I don't want you to miss it. I want you to experience convergence. I want you to know that you're valued, that you're loved. And we want to just take a moment to pray with you. I could talk to these guys for a lot longer, but I want them to take a moment to pray with you, to pray over you, for you to know that whatever you're going through, whether you're single, whether you're married, God wants you to know that He has a plan for your life. And that passion, I want that passion to meet the need. And mine came out of pain. Okay, mine came out of a place of pain after years of ministry, but I was like, I cannot stay in this place anymore. I have to do something, and I want it to be your will, Lord. I want it to be your voice. I don't want it to be me. I want it to be you, and I want you to experience that right now. So would you pray for those watching right now, Lance, and just speak into their lives and let them know
Absolutely.
they can experience
absolutely.
this.
And let me say this. This is so important for the men that are watching.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that the Lord wants you to know that you have capacity to expand. You
good.
might say, I don't know how to do this. I don't even know what you're talking about. Let me tell you something. God made you with the ability to expand so that your wife can have a place there on the inside of your heart that you can support and nurture. Jesus gave His life for the church, and in a very real way, my ministry went to another level the moment I stopped building my own business and my own ministry and started looking at what God was doing with Annabelle and enlarging my capacity and realizing I have the ability to do this. I can help her do this. And then to support her, women, this is so important. You need to know whether you're widowed or divorced, whether you're single or whether you're married. You need to know that this is the hour when God is birthing mothers in Israel. What they're really doing is they're becoming mothers in Israel. They're becoming the nurturing revelation of God the Father to people that have no families, no parents, no one raising them and helping them. And if you'll answer the call of God to begin with what little you have, what I've seen with them is it multiplies. And it may not be convenient. You may have to birth your ministry in a manger, but in short order, it'll be a house. We birthed Amazon in my living room. And it got to the point where
50
I
boxes
was
at
in an
Christmas.
avalanche of boxes. And I told Annabelle, I said, this really isn't going to work, because every day I was picking up at the front door.
That was Christmas.
It was quite an experience. So, but I got off track. Now I'm praying for you. And here's what I'm praying.
Amen.
Father, I ask in
Yes,
Jesus'
Lord.
name for
Thank
every
you,
man
Father.
that is there, that you're going to have a transformational conversation with your wife
Yes, Lord.
to recalibrate
In Jesus'
on what is it that God has put in her heart to do that she's never done. What is the passion that she has that she's never given herself to fulfill? What is the problem she is concerned most about that she wants to solve? Give her that space for that conversation and watch how God fertilizes her vision and creates and births something supernatural that will bless you.
Thank you, Father.
And I believe that there are marriages that can be recalibrated out of that conversation right now.
Yes.
Even with the men. How are you different than you were when you met? How are you different than you were 5 years ago? You need to have that conversation because God's going to upgrade your life with a fresh anointing and a fresh convergence.
Thank you, God.
In the midst of chaos. Something new and beautiful is being created.
Amen.
And I just want to add that, really, Lance, you minister to the kings and priests. I really minister to the orphans and widows. And I think that, like single moms, I think God looks at them that way, a little bit. And that's okay. Like, it's okay to have focuses in different areas and still have things in common. So I just think everyone needs to realize, like, even if I was working alongside with Lance and rooting for him and being his biggest cheerleader for our first 30 years of friendship and marriage, I still am, even if I'm doing
That's right.
something different.
That's right.
So, but we still can be as one. That's the whole thing we're trying to say, and still be looking in different directions to serve God. But I don't know how to exactly.
No, I know
crescendo
exactly
that.
what you're talking about, because for years my husband and I, we were in ministry pastoring together. I was helping him build these churches and alongside him, and then I came to that moment too where it's like I have something else burning inside of me. How do I do this without him feeling like I'm not supporting him? And he had to, for lack of a better word, permission me or release me. He didn't really have to give me permission, but he had to release me. I felt the blessing.
Right.
And that's what I see with you too. The
felt the
blessing. I
blessing.
felt I needed that release. I needed him to be there
Right,
for me.
because then you didn't feel like you abandoned the ship or something.
Right. So I pray that you are hearing this today. Thank you both for being on and sharing your heart, sharing your story, and let us have an intimate look into what God is doing in your family and your ministry. I loved it. I loved what God is doing. We want you to connect with them, connect with Annabelle with her ministry at furnishingfamiliesoftexas.com. She needs lots of donations. She needs lots of people praying with her. It takes an army, guys, to make stuff like this happen. So we want you to support her in any way that you can. We love supporting them and partnering with them, getting them the resources that they need. And if you are a nonprofit or a church watching right now, make sure that you connect with the Goodness Project. We have locations all over, as I mentioned at the beginning. Sometimes we have small fees that we charge, and sometimes we give things away for free. It just depends on outreach and what you're doing. So we want you to know that we'll support you, let you get these resources as inexpensive as possible for basically just the cost of it, so that you can hand it out to as many families as possible. If you're also watching right now, you're listening, we are also doing podcasting. So if you're listening, we want you to continue to spread the podcast out all over Apple and everywhere it's found. Be sure and connect with us here at thegoodnessproject.com. But don't forget to also get a hold of Lance's resources at lancewallnau.com. He has a brand new book out, all kinds of stuff. You can connect with him. His stuff on Convergence, I'm sure you can find it on his website as well. We pray you're blessed and minister to. Thank you so much for being a part today of Goodness Speaks. We'll see you next time.